So as we mentioned, this is one of the most amazing stories of the shluchim of the Rebbe going out and fulfilling the directive of the directives of the Rebbe. In this particular story, we are talking about the mitzvah Tefillin, the Tefillin campaign, as we find ourselves in the midst of the month of Elul, the beginning of Elul, as we mentioned. And in the month of Elul, it's told that it's appropriate for everyone to go and to try to check their tefillin and mezuzahs, all the mezuzahs of their doorposts, take down to have them checked by a God-fearing scribe. And all those that have pairs of tefillin, they should also do the same to check the tefillin by a scribe as well. And here we're talking about a story that took place a few years ago. These two shluchim, what are the names? Rabbi Yaakov Sirkis and Rabbi Zev Ritterman. They came from Nachlas Har Chabad, and they would go down actually to the south, where there were the still are, but then there were even more. There were the settlements that surrounded Gaza, and they would go and they would work with the soldiers that were on guard and were in the bases there, in order to go and to give them the merit of donning tefillin, wrapping tefillin, and especially they would go out of their way to reach the most challenging places, those places that were the most distant. And since they were the most distant, they were actually the most dangerous, the ones that were most closest to the border. And of the such was one of these places. It was considered to be it's called a pillbox. Okay, 1 second. A pillbox is basically a guard tower, but it's literally it's made out of unbelievable thick concrete, and it's very, this particular one that they reached was one of the most highest. It was in right outside the settlement called Dugit. Dugit is a settlement that unfortunately was handed over to the Arabs, but in those times it was still in our possession, and they went to this and they came to this pillbox. It was the tallest of all of the guard towers, because it literally scoped over the entire Mediterranean, in order to be aware as to chas v'sholom, if there were terrorists that were trying to penetrate the borders of Eretz Yisrael coming from the sea. And it was only a matter of 10 kilometers from the actual posts of the terrorists on the other side of the border in Gaza. And they came over here with tefillin. One of the guards came down from the pillbox, and he asked what they needed, what they wanted, and they explained that they came to go and to put on tefillin with the soldiers. And this soldier said that he's Jewish, but there's only one thing. First of all, he's on guard duty right now, even though he came down in order to go and to check what they wanted. He needed to be up at the top of the tower. And he said he would be willing to put on tefillin. Second of all, he mentioned that up on the tower, there's another soldier, and he's originally from Russia, and he was not Jewish. So he asked, is it okay if we put on tefillin when there's a soldier who is not Jewish? So he received a confirmative to both questions. A, they have no problem walking all the way up the many flights of stairs to the top of the tower to put tefillin on him. And second of all, the fact that there's another soldier that is not Jewish that's not a deterrent. It doesn't interfere. So they started to climb the stairs, and it was literally like an unbelievable amount of stairs. On the way up, the soldier asked, what do I get out of putting on tefillin? You know, what are the benefits? What do I get? What do I get from this? So they tried to explain that the whole concept of tefillin is first and foremost, like the Rebbe explains, it casts fear and it upon the enemy, and it causes the enemy to be scared from the Jewish nation. And the second thing he asked, so, you know, what else does it do? And they explained to him that it actually protects and it guards the Jewish nation, and especially the soldiers that have to face the enemy. And he hemmed and hawed, and then he said, I really don't understand the logic over here, because you're talking about something that I do in a closed barracks or up in the tower, but the enemy doesn't see me. They have no idea what I'm doing. So how does something that I do when cast fear upon them without even having their knowledge to the fact that I'm doing this action of putting on tefillin? They try to explain in a manner that it has a spiritual effect and so on, but it was not accepted, or it wasn't understood by the soldier. Nevertheless, they reached the top, and then they went and they proceeded to put tefillin on the soldier. He made a blessing, and he said the Shema, and all of a sudden, the other soldier that was standing guard, and he was standing with binoculars, he kind of like thought out loud, or he spoke to himself, or maybe he was speaking to the others that were present, but he said, hey, this is really uncanny. This is very strange. And he kept on speaking. He said, the terrorists were outside by their post all day. You know, they were walking around and so on. And all of a sudden, they all took off at the speed of light, and you can see that they were afraid of something, and they went back into their guard posts. It was immediately quiet, and Rabbi Ritterman looked at Rabbi Tzirkis, and they both looked at the soldier. The soldier picked up his eyes and looked back at them, and no one could believe it. No one could believe it. This exactly was the proof in regard to the words of our rabbis of blessed memory, that the tefillin cast fear upon the enemy. The words of the Rebbe, that it is so important for soldiers specifically, for anyone, any Jewish male from the age of 13, but for soldiers specifically to put on tefillin, and how it makes the enemy afraid and casts fear upon the enemy. And then they were also thinking about the fact that they've been coming to do the mitzvah campaign, to put tefillin on soldiers for quite a few years now. But this was the first time that they saw how the idea and the concept was given such an impact, and especially in regard to the contrast that as they were going up the stairs, this soldier that was he agreed to put on tefillin, but he was totally in doubt and skeptical about what they were telling him that the tefillin does. But here, all of a sudden, he himself was a witness, together with the two Chabad Hasidim, that this is exactly what the tefillin actually does. They never went and they never saw such a testimony in their lives. They only knew that this is the idea, this is the concept, and this is what they were always talking about and teaching others, especially the soldiers. It goes without saying that after the soldier finished saying the Shema, and he took off the tefillin, so that he was a staunch believer in the fact that the tefillin definitely have such a power to cast fear and to make the enemy scared, to the effect that they testified that the enemy immediately when he started to put on tefillin ran away. No, we should also be able to go and to have this testimony on a good and revealed basis. We know that everyone that puts on tefillin, it casts the fear on the enemy. The soldiers are putting on tefillin. We have to see it and try to see to it that we can put on as many more tefillin as possible to other people that haven't put on tefillin yet. And the Rebbe explains that by other people, not only soldiers, by other people putting on tefillin, first and foremost, the Torah promises that when we put on tefillin, it lengthens our days and years. It gives us a longer life. But second of all, by us putting on tefillin, it literally also casts fear upon the enemy and brings the protection and guards our soldiers, as we were mentioning before. No. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu veRabbeinu Melech Ha'Moshiach le'olam v'ed. We should have these golas, the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach on a good and revealed basis, with great joy and happiness, and it should be immediately now with the Geula Ashlema v'Amitis Teichef u'miyad mamesh mamesh mamesh.